welcome to another Odds and Ends edition of the Acid Trash Jamboree, where I group together a few things that I've been enjoying lately and share my thoughts on them for a few minutes. So up for discussion today, we have three extremely different albums, one from the tail end of the 1960s and two from the very early 70s. So without further ado, let's check them out. We start with the self-titled effort by the UK quartet Indian Summer. This band formed in Coventry in the Midlands in the late 60s and were actually managed by Jim Simpson, who was also responsible for Black Sabbath in those days, though far from playing in the sludgy, proto-doom style of Sabbath. Indian Summer were primarily a prog rock band. This, their only studio album, is a pretty dynamic affair with softer sections of acoustic guitar and reverbed, slightly wishy-washy organ and mellotron textures, leading into much louder passages with the drummer Paul Hooper ably demonstrating his chops. He's playing bordering on the hyperactive at times. The electric guitar work is mostly quite clean and jazzy, especially in the solos, whilst Bob Jackson's vocals are high and soulful, bringing to mind those of Steve Gold from Rare Bird. Ultimately, Indian Summer are one of those bands that you could say sound a little bit like multiple others that were active in the post-psychedelic, early progressive scene, rather than having a completely distinct sound of their own. As well as Rare Bird, personally I hear traces of, say, Arcadium and Still Life, two other one album and done type of bands from around the same time. And even King Crimson in a few spots, especially on Black Sunshine, which is the album's hardest rocking song, with weighty, distorted riffing, and also a nimble Schizoid Man style breakdown. Overall, the album is extremely consistent in terms of quality, though the compositions themselves aren't overtly catchy, so they may take a few listens before they reveal themselves to you. So if you only have a passing interest in prog rock, then Indian Summer are perhaps a band that you can skip over without losing too much sleep, though hardcore enthusiasts will definitely need this in their lives. Next, The Open Window was both the collective name used by the composers Peter Schickele, Stanley Walden and Robert Dennis, and the title of this album that they made together for Vanguard in 1969. And talk about unclassifiable. The tunes here mostly comprise of layers of assorted keyboard instruments, with vocals on about half the cuts, as well as occasional bits of percussion, recorder and clarinet chipping in. And these are by turns jazzy, classical, minimal, avant-garde and psychedelically poppy, often in the space of a single piece. Emotionally, the album's all over the place too, jumping from brash and happy one second, the trio bashing away busily on a Dave Brubeck-style riff, to sad and reflective the next, with plaintive-sounding vocals floating wearily over smeared, tripped-out organ chords. Due to the sheer overload of musical ideas flashing before your ears for the majority of this album, it'd be futile of me to even try and describe one of these tracks in any great detail. So instead imagine a fantasy collaboration between Smile-era Brian Wilson and Van Dyke Parks, a bunch of the Canterbury scene fellas, say Alan Gowan, Robert Wyatt, and I don't know, chuck in the Clever Clogs folks from Slap Happy too, and maybe you'd get something close to this. That said, the ninth track, The Priest of the Raven of Dawn, is about as straightforward a slice of gorgeous, droning, West Coast-ish psychedelia as you could ever wish for. Its lazy tempo and hazy, sun-kissed atmosphere, bringing to mind Country Joe and the Fish or H.P. Lovecraft, they're most stoned and laid back. So definitely not for everyone, and some of the humour on here is dated badly. The cringeworthy Bob Dylan impersonation in particular. But yeah, still, if you enjoy completely off-the-wall and unique period pieces, such as Song Cycle by the aforementioned Van Dyke Parks, and this may just be of interest. Now, here's an interesting one for you. A very early example of what you could call free-form, improvised noise rock. Daily Dance by Doug Snyder and Bob Thompson. Amazingly, this was recorded way back in 1972 in Thompson's kitchen, no less. Then was released on the pair's New Frontiers label the year after. And yeah, this absolutely smokes. If you've ever listened to, say, the first Blue Cheer album and just wished that the freak-out climaxes from that had lasted for minutes on end instead of just a few seconds, or that maybe the Stooges had recorded an album's worth of asthma attack and LA blues type madness, then this is for you. So yeah, the opening 10-minute title track is probably the most striking piece on the album. Building up from ominous rumblings into a truly thunderous, distortion-drenched sonic bulldozer, with Thompson's drum kit mostly sounding like it's falling at great speed down some kind of endless concrete stairwell, and Snyder's muddy, bass-heavy guitar thrumming, sometimes breaking off into frantic, skronky, high-register string scrabbling, with occasional peals of ear-splitting feedback cutting through the murk. Whilst a lot of the album's playing time is given over to similar sections of tape-saturated chaos, the duo do ring the changes in between. Yeah, there are quieter breaks where the noise-making simmers down, and we hear Thompson fiddling about with thumb pianos and assorted bits of percussion, as well as sections where Snyder is playing in a more recognisably rock-centric way, coming in with Ron Ashton-esque primitive wah-wah riffing, or going off-piste into Derek Bailey-style atonal plinking. Though, yeah, before long it's back to the fuzzy bluster, with Thompson even chucking in some blast beats on the extra intense Hit and Run and the album closer Teenage Emergency. Whilst the pair certainly weren't the first ones to play this kind of ultra-confrontational, droning improv rock racket by any stretch, the likes of the Velvet Underground and the aforementioned Stooges' most out-there moments, no doubt acting as major influences on Daily Dance. It definitely was one of the first full-length albums, outside of pure free jazz anyway, to offer up this level of overloaded audio freakery in a single place and without a regular song in sight. As well as releasing a few solo works and cropping up in the excellently named No Wave band, Sick Dick and the Volkswagens, Snyder reunited with Thompson at least a couple of times over the next 2 decades, though unfortunately it looks like neither of them has put out anything since the early 90s. So there's another small snapshot of what I've got piled up on my CD shelves. Hope it's been of some interest. Feel free to take a look around the channel for more videos along these lines, as well as ones dedicated to trashy and weird films. And please do consider subscribing if you're interested in keeping up to date with future episodes of the Acid Trash Jamboree. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.